Welcome to the Displaced Diehards podcast, recorded at 2420 Studios in Owensboro, Kentucky. Download a new episode of the podcast every Friday at displaceddiehards.com. Follow us on Twitter at Diehards Podcast. You can also listen to the podcast on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. And as always, watch us Saturday at 10 p.m. on Time Warner, Channel 72. Yippee-ki-yay.
Displaced Diehards.
Displaced Diehards.
I am a Displaced Diehard.
I am a Displaced Diehard.
We are Displaced Diehards.
Welcome to episode number 17 of the Displaced Diehards NFL podcast. We're recording live at 2420 Studios. I'm your host, Stephen A. Turner, playing the part of Headbanger Mosh, alongside my tag team partner, Mr. Brandon Ward, playing the part of Headbanger Thrasher. We're headbanging a little bit today because we both have wins this week. We'd like to thank big, major, super, extra, mega props to our super producer, Ill Bill Hardesty, behind the boards, and our TV editor, Mr. Roger Turner.
We got a show ready today that'll make Beaver Cleavage proud. I'll tell you what. We got Ask the Snake, backed by popular demand, hosted by his mortal enemy, Drunk Bernie. We got Odinson checking in on the Vikings. We got Jaded Jay Cutler as he re-injured his dick once again, and right off the bat, and he's already benched again. So he's not going to be in a good mood. We got to check in.
Can't wait to hear what he has to say.
We got to check in. We got firsthand information from him. We don't want to rely on like Ed Werder or somebody like that. We go right to Jaded Jay.
Yeah,
we also got more tapes that Brian Hartline narked us from the lunchroom of Dick Cognito and Big Weirdo. We got Riley Cooper checking in with the Caucasian connection rolling strong still. And then we got Trade, Bench, and Sit, a fantasy segment.
Should be a jam-packed show, but we'll get right into that trade, drop, and sit. I will start with my trade. I have a guy that I drafted in pretty much every league, and I've either dropped him or traded him by now. So I'm going to go with trade on C.J. Spiller. Guy did nothing for me. Huge disappointment.
Yeah, and the funny thing is you traded him early on to me whenever your team was struggling, and I inherited the curse of C.J. Spiller, and I think I've lost every game since I had C.J. Spiller.
He's a locker room cancer in fantasy football.
My trade's going to be Darren McFadden because he's always injured, and his games are always late. So even when he's not injured, whenever he does play, whenever he's like questionable or something, you never know till 3 p.m. And then you've already had to make another decision. So if you can get rid of Darren McFadden, get rid of him.
We'll move on to the drops part. These are guys I'm just done with. How about a guy that got arrested this week, Dwayne Bowe? He's been a huge flop. I mean, you'd think the Chiefs, with the record that they have, that
it's not because
Dwayne Bowe would have some decent numbers, but this guy's been non-existent all season.
Yeah, Alex Smith can't throw the ball far enough to utilize somebody like Dwayne Bowe. He's just been a waste this season, especially for people that drafted him high in fantasy league, expecting like a T.O. type, the guy, number one receiver, like whenever Andy Reid had T.O., and this Dwayne Bowe's done nothing for you. But anyways, in my drop section, I'm actually going to go C.J. Spiller because you've cursed me with him, so I want to drop him.
Oh, well, if you're going to trade him, you might as well drop him. I mean, C.J. Spiller's worth a drop. I also dropped Trent Richardson. I got a little overzealous on my list. I wrote down a lot of guys. Trent Richardson, just because I can't stand Jim Irsay and that horrible trade that he made, I threw Trent Richardson on the drop list as well.
Yeah, Donald Brown looks like he's
the
more
guy now.
There.
I know that for a fact.
In Indy.
He just beat me 2 weeks ago. Donald Brown just beat me. But let's move on to the sits. I have Ray Rice in a few leagues, and he's just not produced all season. I don't want to drop him, but because I just because he's Ray Rice. I mean, you can't drop Ray Rice, but I mean, at this point, I'm just gonna have to sit him until further notice.
That's the same guy I have as bench Ray Rice for the same exact reasons. And the thing is, like, the reason I bench him instead of just dropping him is because even his backup, Bernard Pierce, is not putting up numbers either. Right. He's averaging 2-3 yards a carry behind that same offensive line. So if the offensive line ever gets healthy or get things together, Ray Rice might come back to normal. But, I mean, you can see with Bernard Pierce that it's not just Ray Rice has ran out of steam in his legs from too many carries or things like that. Just they can't get it done in the running game. But like you said, Ray Rice is too valuable the past 3 or 4 years and prove that he's a fantasy value to have. So I'm going to hold on to him, but I'm benching him.
Yeah, no one's taking his job there. I also have another sit, a guy that I don't want to drop because they're bound to take some pride at some point. I mean, the counts, Atlanta Falcons, I'm sitting Rowdy White. I mean, Julio Jones is gone, and there's no other guys on the team, like you said, that can really replace him, his value. So and he's not been healthy all year. So maybe if they can, get him a little rest, and I mean, there's no reason to rush him back at 2-7. So maybe Rowdy White will produce at some point. So I've got him on the bench as well.
I'll go ahead and throw an extra one out there too. I'm benching either of since you're talking about the Falcons, I'll bench either of those starting running backs that people were starting in fantasy, Jaquez or Steven Jackson.
Yeah,
neither one of those guys can get it done either. They're almost a Ray Rice situation where you almost have to think the offensive line's just in shambles so bad that it's more on them than the actual running backs at this point. But moving on now to a guy who will never drop, bench, or trade.
No.
Kenny the Snake Stabler checks in with Ask the Snake.
This should be interesting.
Hosted by Drunk Bernie.
Kenny the Snake Stabler here, back once again on the Displaced Diehards podcast with hashtag Ask the Snake segment. Now my host this week, you may not believe it, but the Diehards decided to go ahead and pay for some sensitivity training, some joint sensitivity training with me and Drunk Bernie. But before I'd agree to it, I had to roll down to the Golden Corral and pull around back to the dumpster and pull Drunk Bernie's ass out and make him clean out my damn Lexus. Now I said, before you can get my damn car, Bernie, you got to clean off that chocolate wonderfall off your shirt. Get that shit out of my Lexus. I don't want you dirtying it up any more than you already have.
Sometimes there's strawberries.
Shut up, Bernie. I'm not done talking yet.
Sorry.
And now we went to sensitivity training. We went in, we broke bread at the Golden Corral. And I can't say that I like the guy, but we're at least going to have a working relationship so he can ask me some Twitter questions this week. So I'm introducing to you Drunk Bernie.
Come on, Kitty. We had a beautiful weekend together. We watched all the games on Sunday. At the rehab center, they have NFL Sunday ticket.
Let's not kid everybody. We know why we really made amends. He gave me the back room and the key to his daughter's room, and I went in there and we had a glorious weekend.
Why do you always gotta be my daughter, Kitty?
It's the first time. It was a long time.
You've had your fingers in her.
The snake had a lot more than that, baby. Let's go. Twitter questions. Stat.
I got a question for you, Kenny. You have a lot of time in the dumpster thinking to yourself. You have to choose between fighting 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck.
Now, what the hell are you talking about, Bernie?
A horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? Which one would you rather fight?
Well, that doesn't make no damn sense at all to the snake. But if you really want to get technical and break down the science of the situation, I guess I'd have to go with a horse-sized duck. Because it'd be like riding on a Pegasus. You could fly. You could go across the water like a hovercraft. The only downside, I guess, is it's a duck. You'd be riding a duck.
I think you should tame it before you do that. You're supposed to be fighting it, Kenny. Are you going to punch it?
Get to the Twitter questions, Barney, before I fire your ass.
The Twitter questions.
This sensitivity trainer's running out on me real quick.
At Michael J. Moore, is it true Romo lost Jessica Simpson because he can't finish there either?
Wow, what a question. That's probably the truth, baby. Romo can't finish in any situation. But Jessica Simpson, if she needs somebody to get the job done, you can hit me up on I'm the Snake, baby. Go ahead and send me a private message, baby, and we'll hook that up. Get to the next question.
At Josh Coons wants to know, do you think Jonathan Martin sits when he pees?
That's a hell of a question. A question we can agree on. Absolutely he sits when he pees. He probably has tampons once a month, too, because he's a pussy.
Sometimes when it's dark at night, you don't want to pee all over the floor. You'll sit down when you pee. You do it, Kenny. Don't lie.
What the hell are you talking about, Bernie? Just keep your mouth shut and ask me the question.
Sometimes it's more logistically probable to sit down when you pee is all I'm saying.
You're trying to run roughshod all over the snake segment. Now shut up and ask me the question.
Hey, you asked me to come here.
This is a damn train wreck. The snake segment's being railroaded by a drunk-ass Bernie Kosar. Just like all his bunk-ass land deals, he's trying to take a shit all over my segment. Now move on. Let's go. Oh, damn it.
And Josh Coons wants to know.
That's the second question from Josh Coons. Are you asking the same one?
He lingers. He wants to know a lot.
Well, let's bring it on, Josh. What do you got?
Can Jacksonville beat Alabama?
Are you serious right now? Do you know where Kenny the Snake went to college? Roll Tide, baby. Jacksonville's got no chance. T.J. Yeldon's twice a running back as Maurice Jones-Drew is. And Nick Saban, he can beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. I got no question about it, baby. Roll Tide. What the hell are you doing?
Kenny, and my feelings still hurt. Next question is from @AllSportsTalk92. He wants to know, have you ever injured your shoulder like Aaron Rodgers?
What the hell are you talking about, Bernie? That question was last week. Somebody get the alcohol away from Bernie. He can't even concentrate. Give me one more question before I kick your ass out of here.
My Motorola Razr doesn't work Twitter good.
A Razr? What the hell are you talking about? That was like 98.
It's the most popular flip phone ever.
You're killing me. You're killing the snake. God, I can barely get through this. You got one more question.
Just let me put my clothes back on, Snake. That's all I ask.
This segment is completely shot. Give me one more.
@CasualFan69.
Oh, Jesus.
The Casual Fan reporter. I enjoy his analysis. Why do snakes shed their skins, and does it just slide off like a used condom or what?
This guy has no idea what he's talking about, baby. Every week he comes on Diehards talking about some sort of fighting league. Now he thinks I'm a real snake. But I'll go ahead and answer it for the dumbass casual fan. I watch enough National Geographic to know that it does just kind of slide off like a condom.
He just rubs his nose against a tree.
Kind of like the condom slid right off my penis after I had sex with Bernie's daughter.
Get out of my daughter! Get your away from my daughter!
It slid right off my like that condom. But then like the first one, and then the second one, and then the third one, baby, because I had to wear 3 condoms to get up and drink Bernie's daughter. You know what I'm saying?
It's dirty.
This segment's horrible, but it's making me laugh, baby. So I guess that's all that matters. I gotta get the out of here. We wasted too much time already, baby.
You're supposed to take me to the sizzle.
Shut up, Bernie. Shut the up. I'm tired of dealing with you.
I'm sorry.
Hashtag Ask the Snake, baby. And I'm the Snake, baby. Go ahead and hit me up next week, and I'll bring somebody competent in here that can ask me some damn questions. See you next week. Shut up, Bernie.
They got cotton candy at the Gold Corral.
Thank you, Kenny the Snake Stabler and Drunk Bernie. That was like listening to 2 Tourette's argue.
I don't even know if I can continue after that. I might have to take a break.
You're gonna try to get back on the football lane here. Try to go into some games. Let's talk about the Vikings.
It's easy to transition into that, I guess.
Redskins took on the Vikings, and your Vikings got it done.
Hey, they're bound to win every once in a while. I mean, the Redskins, this is a tale of 2 halves. I turned the game off at halftime, to be flat honest with you, and I turned it over to something else. I can't remember what it was, but
the defense the Vikings were playing in the first half was horrible.
It was an absolute.
It was reminiscent of the Cowboys against the Saints.
Kind of reminded me. It kind of made me think that the team maybe have actually given up on the coaching staff the way they were playing in the first half. But they rallied.
Tackling.
Oh yeah, I mean our linebackers. I've said it from day one. Our linebackers have been a joke all season long across the board. Chad Greenway is supposed to be, they pegged that guy to be the leader of the defense once Winfield went away, and he just has been anything but. I mean, he's been horrible in coverage. He's been horrible at tackling. And, I guess they went to the locker room, and somebody, lit a fire under him. Kevin Williams came out and was unblockable in the second half of this game, and he pretty much turned the tide, was able to get some sacks on RG3 up the middle. It's something our defense has been lacking since Kevin Williams was in his prime about 3 years ago, and he garnered that back up, and he basically turned the whole game around.
Yeah, whenever you get pressure on RG3, that's his downfall right there, especially when he doesn't really want to run that much. He can say he wants to run all he wants to, but he's still reluctant. He's still not the same guy on that leg out there.
No.
You can get pressure on him, then he's not just sitting back there with time. I think the biggest thing that the Vikings improved on was just their tackling in the second half. I mean, they were there in the first half. They just weren't taking the guy to the ground.
Yeah, it was awful. It was an embarrassment in the first half, as it has been all year. But a guy you really got to just give credit to in this game, a guy who's just out there fighting to try to keep his job as much as he can. Christian Ponder, I thought, played his best game since late last season. He's playing very well right now. Maybe not necessarily making his third and fourth reads very well, but he's just scrapping out there. He's doing whatever he can do to keep the chains moving. And I thought there was a few situations in this game where if you're the Vikings at 1-7, you could have just down 17 or 14 or whatever they were, 13. I'm sorry, what they were down there in the second half. They could have just packed it in, but Ponder kept fighting. He used John Carlson well. He used his legs well. He let it all hang out on the where they thought was a touchdown, where he hurt himself, and I thought he played fantastic.
I already expected to play this week, even after that injury. Though it looked bad from whenever it happened. I thought he shattered his arm, but I mean he's saying he's expecting to play. I guess it was non-throwing arm is what he injured.
Yeah, it was non-throwing. Yeah, his shoulder is what's
Hey,
actually.
take note, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, as a Vikings fan, it feels good to get this win, especially when you look across the board. We didn't really lose any ground. Tampa Bay won, and Jacksonville won, and the only thing we really lost ground to is Atlanta. So we're still right there in the draft hunt.
Could have made a big move in the Teddy Bridgewater Bowl.
That's right.
Unfortunately.
That's right. But, it is what it is. I don't care about the draft. I'm not a guy that's going to go out there and hope they lose. When I'm watching the game, I want to watch them win. I don't care what the record is. And I thought the team, from the first half to the second half was a completely different team, and I thought they played pretty well.
We were actually talking about it at work last night, how the Vikings could end up getting Johnny Manziel because they're the third team on the list that in the draft with the worst record right now. So, I mean, I think he's going to end up being the most successful NFL quarterback out of the bunch. So the Vikings might end up being able to get you a few wins and get you a quarterback next year. That'd be best case scenario.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I'm definitely not a fan of Mariota out of Oregon. A lot of people are really high on him. I watch a lot of the games in college just to scout the quarterback situations, and I don't know how Manziel's going to. I love Manziel's game in college. I would love to have that type of quarterback with AP in the NFL. But
Cordero Patterson back there, that's some speed.
You get a young coach, Shaw out of Stanford. It's pretty much it. I've zeroed in on this guy. I think he's going to make a hell of a head coach. I love the way he gets Stanford prepared. He's a guy that coached under Harbaugh. I love their system there.
Yeah, perfect coach for AP. The way he plays football.
And let's ask the Vikings how it worked out last time they hired an African American head coach from Stanford. The guy took him to the playoffs down there every year he was there, Dennis Green. So I would definitely take that back any day of the week.
Yeah, Denny Green might be famous now for his promo about letting him off the hook,
Yeah.
but back whenever he was in Minnesota, he was a hell of a coach.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, that was the glory days for the Vikings, at least for the generation of fans that I know of the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't win a lot of playoff games, but as long as you're there every year and in the mix, that's a step up from where we're at now. So I would take it.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking about Andy Reid is like it's better to be in the mix, and then like once you're in the mix for a little while, and then you don't get it done, then it starts to sour.
But get old, right?
I think like whenever the '98 Vikings happen and things like that's things will turn you sour on the coaches quicker than them not getting it done in the regular season. It's the last image. It's the last image you have of the season. Whenever you got your hopes up and it gets shut down violently at the end of the season, you're like, time to F that guy.
Yeah, especially when you're one of the greatest teams to ever play, you don't get it done. But yeah, I mean, Willie Shaw actually was an assistant coach for us for 2 or 3 years. That's David Shaw's dad.
Who was the assistant coach under?
2000. It was Dennis Green actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so there you go.
Good pedigree.
Stanford connection. I just think a lot of people are calling for Gruden and stuff like that, and to me,
that's just the big popular name out there. Like whenever somebody needs a head coach,
I'm looking for a young, innovative coach that can come in and figure out a way to make things happen. I'm tired of this Bill Musgrave offense where it's just run like we're still in the 80s. I'm ready to move along and have somebody innovative come in.
I was going to say, if Ted Musgrave's on the squad, he must be running the NASCAR with Joe Gibbs.
Where I got that from? Bernie and the Snakes got me all discombobulated here. I'm still can't get that segment out of my head.
Well, while we try to get that straight, let's go ahead and kick it to Odinson. He's got to be happy this week. Vikings get off the schneid and get a win. So
go Vikings.
There was one thing that might bring him down. It's Jerome Simpson, his boy. Let's see how that DUI happened on the Rainbow Bridge.
Ha-ha, 'tis I, Sir Odinson. Since last we spoke, thou had travelled the 9 realms, laying waste to any and all beasts that happen upon my path. Ogres, elves, giants, and dragons all fell before the rage of the Odinson. Then came the Sabbath. Thou arrived in Asgard as the game began. After the half of first, I retreated to the tavern, defeated. Thou could not bear another brutal defeat. Then Heimdall retrieved me from the bosom of a drunken bar wench to show me what had transpired. We had looked like the Vikings of old. Sir Kevin of William had turned into a beast. The offense began to make plays, and narrowly we claimed victory over the Skins of Red. 'Tis true that Sir Ponder was injured, but Sir Castle managed the game well. And even though we again almost allowed them to come back with but a minute,
left upon the clock. It is no matter, 'cause the line of defense stood its ground and brought home victory. Victory at last! All warriors of the North were allowed upon the Bifrost to the lands of Asgard, but tragedy befell us again, as thou drinking partner, Sir Jerome of Simpson, was arrested for driving under the influence of Asgardian mead, exiting the Rainbow Bridge. It falls on me to rescue him. So Heimdall, open thy Bifrost, for tonight there's going to be a prison break.
Thank you, Odinson, for your report on Asgard, and apparently the snake was wrong. You can get a DUI on the Rainbow Bridge. I'll be damned.
Poor Jerome Simpson.
The snake doesn't know everything.
You know, they said they can't put the guy on the bench because his play, because Cordero Patterson can't get in the game. I think Cordero Patterson might just have garnered some game time.
I think he just moved up on the depth chart.
I think he did.
Speaking of moving up, well, we thought the Colts were moving up after the last few games, and then they get decimated by the Rams.
Wow.
It was the Rams taking on the Colts, 38-8. Who's seen this coming?
This is the game where you're watching the Game Mix channel. You know, we're watching the Eagles game over here, and and we're trying to decipher all the games on the Game Mix. You kind of lose track of games sometimes when you're watching the Game Mix. You zero in on one. You know, and this game was one of the ones I wasn't really paying that close attention to. I look up and it's like 24-0.
Every
What
time I did pay
hell
attention to it, Tavon Austin was returning a kick for
guy
90 yards. He ended up having 314 all-purpose yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, a major coming-out party for Tavon Austin. He's been doing absolutely zero all year, especially from where they drafted this guy and what they thought he was going to be. But, I mean, he showed up big time, 314 yards and 3 TDs. That'll turn your team around.
Absolutely. I mean, he must be following me on Twitter and saw where I crowned Cordero Patterson Special Teams Rookie of the Year because he came out with the fire under him in this game. And anytime you can get big plays like that when you're the Rams and you have their defense, you know, those big plays are going to be huge because, you know, you're not going to score a whole lot of points on the Rams. They can put together, you know, 2 or 3 explosive plays a game. They're going to be right there in the mix.
Rams, Cardinals, and Panthers are all those teams.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, their defenses can keep them in the games. And as long as they get a few big plays on offense, that's all they need. Just don't turn over the ball. That's the key.
We've pretty much been the same on this team all year, is that, you know, they're going to play – those 3 teams are going to play you tough on defense. And if you can get your offense, the Rams are the biggest question probably of all of them offensively.
Especially once Bradford went down.
You got
drunk Bernie's boy, Kellen Clemens, in there slinging it around.
Yeah, I mean, you got Zach Stacy, who stepped in well for this team. And, I mean, he didn't put up tons of stats, but the guy stepped in and he's became a focal point.
He's been that dependable guy whenever they need short yards and goal line touches. That's who they didn't have the first few weeks.
Right.
Whenever they're 3rd and 2, they didn't have anybody to go to, and they were having to punt the ball and things like that. And now they're converting those into first downs.
This is a Jeff Fisher, and this team's just got the stamp of Jeff Fisher on it. A team you look at on paper from top to bottom, and you think, well, the Rams might win 4 games. They might win 3 games. Jeff Fisher gets the most out of everything that he's got. I mean, you know his teams are going to play you tough on defense. And on offense, I mean, he hasn't always had the greatest talent on that side of the ball, but, you know, they're going to be competitive.
He maximizes his talent well.
Oh, yeah. You see the Rams on the schedule, you better not look past them because they're going to play you tough any time.
Bruising defense, I mean, anytime you face a defense like that, it's going to be a long
Their front
day.
seven's just nasty.
And that's going to put pressure on your quarterback. And like we said all year, that's the new key in this league is getting pressure on the quarterback because there's too many rules for the defenders to be able to not be able to. They can't impose their will over the middle anymore. They can't hit off the line. If you do hit it, they say you can, but if you do like you do in the old days, then they get called for penalties. I mean, you can't stop offenses anymore. The best way to stop the offense is get to the quarterback before he can throw to the wide receivers who have all the rules.
In this game, Andrew Luck looked a little lost. To be honest with you, he hasn't looked quite the same. I know they won last week, but losing Reggie Wayne is a huge loss. We highlighted that last week in the running game when they traded that first-round pick for Trent Richardson. I mean, they're still using Donald Brown as much as they were, and it's just a horrible move by Irsay. He wants to blame. He wants to go on Twitter and start hanging people or whatever. It is what it is. Irsay needs to look in the mirror. That was a horrible trade on his part.
Speaking of laying blame on people, we'll go ahead and move it on now to Jaded J's Chicago Bears. The Lions took on the Bears, and the Lions got the win in a big divisional matchup there. Put them in front of the division with Green Bay going down, with Aaron Rodgers being out. They don't look like they're gonna be much in the division. And as you predicted all year, you said that the Green Bay was time for them to fall a little bit. But I don't know if you could predict that Aaron Rodgers was going to be the reason. But I mean,
I'm going to say
Either way, they're still falling right now, and I think the Lions or Bears are going to be the ones that take over that division. The Lions got the big win.
I would like to think even with Aaron Rodgers in there, I still think the Lions are just as talented. It's just a matter of them putting it together. We've been saying that for weeks. And this is a huge game, especially with Aaron Rodgers on the shelf. The Packers' season could be on the shelf. So this is a game for the driver's seat of the NFC North and pretty much a guaranteed playoff spot. And for the Lions to go into Soldier Field and get this win on the road is huge for a team that has been bottom feeders for years. This is a game that can really propel them towards the NFC North crown. The Bears, on the other hand. I saw on Twitter, a lot of people were saying McCown better than Cutler. There's no question. There's a question there whenever they're both healthy to who is the better. To me, I've watched the Bears with McCown in there, and they look almost as effective, more effective than with him than Cutler. And when you put an injured Cutler out there, there's no question
McCown's definitely better for him right now. Jay Cutler wasn't the same Jay Cutler as the beginning of the season. He was falling back on old habits that he had of just launching the ball to not take hits.
Didn't look good at all.
Wasn't moving his feet well. Wasn't reading the defense very well. Was just trusting his arm, and we've seen what that gets you into with Jay Cutler, get you in the interceptions. But a couple weeks ago, Des Bryant and Megatron faced off for the best two wide receivers in the league category, and then I think this week you've seen another preview of it with Megatron and Brandon Marshall.
Yeah.
Both guys caught 2 touchdowns. Megatron just looks unfair with him whenever they're in the goal line area, they just throw it up to him. I mean, there's no defense for it. The Bears defenders just kind of jogged. They almost looked like they knew they were defeated before Calvin even caught that pass.
Yeah, Calvin Johnson, you match him up one-on-one with any DB in the league on a jump ball, and I like my chances there.
It didn't even look like they were trying. I mean, it was just a slow jog, lift arms up, jump.
And that's Peanut Tillman out there, one of the, in my opinion, the most underrated corner in all of football, and one of the better cornerbacks in the league in the game today. I think the guy's always making plays, and you could just tell that he did, in his mind, it looked like he thought that he had no chance on him, and that was a huge play in that game at that point. Now on the other side, I praised Tressman last week for the way he coached the game. I thought that. We said it. You said, Jay would try to rush back because he's a little worried about his job in the contract year. And I think that's a straight situation. You watch this game from the minute of the opening kickoff, and Cutler didn't look like he should have been on the field. He didn't look like he was healthy. And I think Tressman has to take charge of the team and know that they're right there. The division's right there for the taking, And so you got to make a team. You got to give your team the best chance to win. I didn't think they did that with Cutler.
Yeah, I think J hurt himself worse than he helped himself whenever he was trying to get back to win his job. I think he actually hurt himself because
I think he did too.
He left the image in the fans' mind of him not doing well. And I mean, and the fans.
If he don't play this week and McCown goes out there and lights it up again, there's going to be a bigger controversy than you think.
The fans think if you're out there playing, you should be helping their team. They don't look at it that you're injured. They just look that you played very poorly, and then McCown stepped in and got you the win. And also speaking of Brandon Marshall, a lot of people say that Jay is the reason, and even J likes to say that he's the reason he's good. But he's proven with McCown in there that he's still a very viable wide receiver, top 5. And then you got another guy stepping up in Chicago with Alshon Jeffries, who's just going and getting the ball whenever it gets.
You don't like Alshon either, I don't think.
Yeah, half-ass wide receiver from South Carolina.
Now, Brandon Marshall, if he's got his head on straight and he's not having off-the-field problems and all that personality disorder stuff affect him, he's absolutely one of the best wide receivers in the game. His athleticism and size is second to none in the league.
We can speculate all we want about this, but we got J on the show, so we might as well see how his injury happened, when he's going to be back, if he's going to be back, if he thinks he's better than McCown. Let's go to J.
What's up, everybody? Jay Cutler here. I don't know if you've watched the game on Sunday or not. What kind of a coach takes a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback out of the game on a 2-minute drill when you're only down by a touchdown and a 2-point conversion? I'll tell you what kind of coach. A shitty CFL coach, that's what kind. Montreal Alouette wannabe. Take your ass back to Toronto, Mark Tressman. You're terrible. Everybody calling for McCown. Wants my job. J was in there. We not only scored, we converted the 2-point conversion, and that would have took us to a victory in overtime. People are asking me about my war wounds from the game. Tweaked my ankle. Legs are sore. Who needs an ice bath? I have a reality star wife. She comes in the bedroom, scrubs her reality star all over my legs. It's like the fountain of youth. I could run a 4.240 after that. While she's rubbing her titties all over my legs, we started talking about potential destinations for this first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback next season. My contract's up, and Tressman's still the coach. I don't want to be there. How about New England? That guy's getting old. I'll play for Bill Belichick. Christian don't like the weather in the Northeast. Guess I can go be the savior of an entire city in Jacksonville. Take Jacksonville from a perennial loser to a winner with a Hall of Fame quarterback like Jay Cutler. But Christian likes mansions more than trailer parks, so I don't think we're going to be moving to Jacksonville anytime soon. Colin Kaepernick's on a lot of interceptions this season, I think. I don't really watch the NFL. San Francisco's full of anyway. What about Oakland? They got a zombie owner in Oakland. Jay don't want no part of that. I guess at this point, I could become a Houston Texan. Kristen loves the indie music scene. She loves vegan barbecue, and she likes the Cowboys. We're sure as hell not going to Dallas. I'm going to play under Jerry Jones, horse his ass. I've talked for too long. It's cocoa butter time. I got to check out of here. Until next week when they bench my ass again, this is Jay Cutler, signing off.
Thank you, Jay Cutler, for the update on your injury and your wife's love of cocoa butter.
Yes, absolutely. How about the Panthers and Niners? Let's jump right in to some football action.
Panthers officially announced we are here.
That's right. They blew my mind a little bit. I've been kind of hating on who they played, and they went out and they beat a good team on the road. I mean, it wasn't necessarily pretty, but their defense got the job done.
They go to San Francisco and beat San Francisco at home 10-9. I mean, like we've been saying all year, Luke Kuechly and that defense, it makes those guys a contender as long as their offense can not turn the ball over and put up some points. I thought they'd have to put up more than 10 points.
Yeah, that's crazy. Their defense got the job done in this one. They completely shut the Niners down, and you know, I didn't see a lot out of Cam Newton in this game to like blow my mind or anything, but I mean, when your defense only gives up 9 points, you're going to win most of the time.
Yeah, the Panthers D only allowed 151 total yards.
Yeah, that's insane. It's an offense like the Niners.
The New Orleans Saints were getting that in a drive and a half during the Cowboys game, and the Panthers held the Niners that the entire game. I don't know. You got to start wondering about Colin Kaepernick. It's not looking like he's reading defense as well at all, and he's not wanting to run. I mean, he's basically became RG3 without hurting his knee.
Yeah, I can't really explain it. You know, I think a lot of people are basically when Kaepernick came in, they won a lot of games straight. But if you really dive into it, the way he finished the year doesn't really tell the tale of the quarter. I mean, he was explosive at the end of the year, you know, with the big runs and everything. But you know, you got to, like I said, we got to trim it back a little bit. The guy's only played in 12 games. He's only started like 12 games.
Yeah, he'd technically still be a rookie as far as games started.
And that's kind of the way it's going with a lot of these young guys. I mean, they come out of the box on fire, and you get these high expectations like they're going to be the next Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or whatnot. And you know,
then defenses get tape on them, and they're not.
You have to, and especially with guys like gimmick guys like Kaepernick, a guy who's not going to sit and beat you in the pocket. I mean, he's never going to be a quarterback that's just going to beat you with his arm, drop back and throw it 50 times a game and beat you that way. Just same way with even like a Russell Wilson or they still going to need to use their legs a little bit to be effective. And the defense like the Panthers, and you got going up against a defense like that. I mean, they can definitely game plan to slow you down a little bit.
Yeah, I think Kaepernick is even more in need of that. The way he's learned, especially the way he came into the league, he was running the pistol option,
yeah.
And then he also had Michael Crabtree, and both of those have basically been taken away from him this year.
Yeah, that's another thing you have to look at. His weapons have been
Vernon Davis
in
went
a
down
bad
this
way.
game.
Yeah, I mean he hasn't had the wide receivers on the outside. They picked up Bolden, but I mean the guy's at the twilight of his career. So I'm gonna scale it back a little bit on the worry about Kaepernick. Now, if he continues to regress, with Crabtree and them in there, then you're gonna have to start asking the questions.
The thing that worries me about him though is he can still be running even without Crabtree in the game. You would think he would be more apt to run with Crabtree not being around, since he doesn't have his number one option, and now he doesn't have Vernon Davis either because he got injured. He just got Manningham back, but I mean you can't expect him to check right into the game and be the same Manningham. But that should be on Colin Kaepernick then. I mean, why wouldn't you be running now? It's like all the talk in the offseason about people hitting the quarterback.
That's what I don't understand.
I think that took him out of his mindset to want to run. I think he's scared of
That's
injury.
what I don't understand is that all this the newfangled offenses that come across the league with these rushing quarterbacks and these rule changes and whatnot, it's completely taken it away. It's not necessarily defensive plays where they've been hit and beat up. It's that they just kind of stopped doing it. I don't know.
Yeah, they didn't even run it now. It's like the offensive coordinators are like, I don't want to risk my quarterback getting hit.
That's what I think it is more than the quarterback's not really wanting to run. I think they're trying to tell them, you don't want your franchise to investment to be injured on plays like that. But, I mean, the fact of the matter is that's what makes your franchise.
That's what I was going to say. The thing with some of these guys are you don't have a franchise quarterback if they don't run, especially with Kaepernick. I think he's the one that needs to run the most.
I agree. And RG3 as well. I mean, if RG3 is not running if he's not running the option, the read option, well, then he's just an average or below average quarterback. I mean, that gimmick of drawing the defense to the line and then throwing to the single coverage down the field is very difficult to stop. And if you're not doing that on a consistent basis, your offense is going to be stagnant.
Moving on now to something else that's been tough to stop. Moving on to the Texans versus Cardinals, as the Cardinals got the win 27-24. But what's been tough to stop since Case Keenum's been around is Andre Johnson back to him normal self. Apparently, the rumors of his demise were greatly over-exaggerated, and it was just Matt Schaub who sucked.
Yeah, what's hurting the Texans more than anything right now is they don't have a running game. I mean, Keenum stepped in, and I think he's shown that the Texans should roll with him as their quarterback of the future, at least for now.
They don't really have a defense either because, as I said, they lost this game 27-24 to the Cardinals. And, I mean, if you're allowing 27 points to Carson Palmer's Cardinals, you got some problems on defense.
I don't understand their defense. I mean, it went from being one of the best in the league to just not being very good is what it flat boils down to. In the NFL, it's just so hard to put your finger on things. I mean, teams, look like they're more talented on paper and then they don't perform on the field. I mean, if you have a couple guys that are underachieving out there, I can tell you from experience of watching the Vikings this year, I mean, a couple guys don't match the level of what you thought they were going to play to, and it can completely just ruin your season. And that's the Texans' defense in a nutshell.
I've heard Gary Kubiak's expected to coach this week, so Wade Phillips will be able to go back to defensive coordinator. Yeah. So maybe the defense will pick up a little bit. Moving on to the Cardinals side, though, the Cardinals they're a schizophrenic team. They look really, really bad one week, and then they look mediocre the next week, and then they'll go out and their defense will look like a top 5 defense in the league, and you think that type of defense can beat anybody. So I really don't know if the Cardinals should be considered out of it at this point or still.
They're definitely not out of it. They're right there. I mean, they're a playoff team. I mean, 5-4. I mean, they're right there in the mix. I mean,
that's just because I don't know if their offense is dependable enough. I mean, they've been looking for a run game for years now.
Oh, yeah.
Consistently, they thought Carson Palmer was going to come in and bring Larry Fitzgerald back to his old status. That's not working out, but their defense is getting it done. I just don't know if their offense can put the points on the board. I don't think they can rely on their defense that much.
As long as they can get their offense to be as efficient as it was in this game, then they're going to be in the games because their defense is solid. Just like we've already pointed it out with the Panthers and Rams, this is pretty much the same situation. It's all about what their offense can do. You look at the Panthers; they only put 9 or 10 on the board and they won. And you look at the Rams, and they got explosive plays from their special teams and a couple from their offense, and it was good enough to win. And the Cardinals are the same way. You look at the entire NFC, and I think it started kind of slow. You're thinking the way our predictions were going, that it wasn't going to quite match up. But you look at the NFC, and there's not a whole lot of teams that are out of the mix.
There's not a lot of easy wins in the NFC for sure, especially whenever you look at the schedules that Kansas City and the Patriots got to start out with.
Yeah.
I mean, and you compare it to some NFC teams that you got to play going through the West. I mean, you got to play like through the West or the Central. I mean, that's some rough football.
It absolutely,
in the North.
Absolutely, it is. And you got a team like the Cardinals who are sitting right there. I mean, that division is stacked. You got 2 perennial playoff teams in Seattle and San Francisco, and San Francisco's not out of the woods. Yeah, they're right there. The Cardinals are only 1 game behind them, and the Rams are right there as well. The only teams that's really out of it in the NFC that I could pick out would be the Falcons and the Vikings. Other than that, I mean, every team is in the Buccaneers. Other than that, every team is alive, and they should have high playoff aspirations.
And that speaks to how difficult the NFC is going to be to get into the playoffs. Like you said, the Niners and Seahawks are both going to make it, and they're in the same division. So that takes out one wild card right there. And then you got the division winners. So you only got one wild card spot basically being fought for by all these teams.
But I don't know at this point that you can guarantee a Niners place in the playoffs. I mean, that sounds crazy, but their record speaks to what it is. I mean, the Bears are right there with them. The Cardinals are right there with them. Now, obviously, on paper, the Niners look like the better team than those teams. I mean, you got the Eagles that are there. The Cowboys, they look lost. They're going to a bad spot.
I think the only East team making the playoffs is whoever wins that division. Nobody else is coming out of there, I don't think.
But the records are so tight that, I mean, a few bad losses here or there could shift the entire mojo of it.
At this time last year, nobody thought the Redskins were going to get in,
right,
including their own coach, who was saying they should be scouting for younger players to see who was going to be playing for them this year. And then they ended up winning the division and shocked everybody with that.
Right. There's a long way to go, but it's a logjam, and it's going to be fun to watch how it plays out over the course of the next few weeks.
Speaking of something that's not fun to watch, though, is all the ridiculous media coverage of Dick Cognito and Big Weirdo situation. They've been talking about it nonstop, about a 350-pound adult male being bullied by some other guy, and then
still going on.
But yet they hang out with each other. It's a very weird situation.
I have a very unpopular opinion on it. I mean, it is what it is, but I mean. Okay, let me ask you this. A guy, I hate to spend even time on this topic because it's completely irrelevant to football. But the fact of the matter is, a guy's bullied so bad that he's crying, basically. He leaves the team. He's an emotional wreck, and he's gone from the team because of supposedly Richie Incognito's bullying him. And this guy's text messaging Richie Incognito. Like, okay, if some guy's picking on me, and I can't stand this dude, and he's making my life a living hell, I don't think I'm going to go have a text conversation with the guy. I mean, to me, this is a bunch of BS. It's a guy that can't – it is what it is. I'll bully Jonathan Martin right now on the radio. It is what it is. The guy can't stand up for himself. He can't play his position very well. He's having a horrible time in the NFL. They stuck him out there at left tackle, and he's getting dominated. And just so happens now he's got an emotional problem with the team. To me, this is just a backdoor way to figure out a way he can go home and get paid. I mean, because I just don't buy into it. I'm sorry. I know everybody's trying to give this guy a crying towel, and they're trying to get, oh, Jonathan Martin, the poor guy's bullied, and it's rampant in our schools, and our 10-year-old kids are being bullied. And you got this 370-pound guy, offensive lineman, getting bullied. And
all right, I got to step in here because you're killing me. I don't want to hear about this anymore. I was trying to throw to something I want to hear, and that's Dick Cognito. Right. His secretly taped conversations with Big Weirdo. I want to hear from the two direct. I don't want to hear about the media's opinion.
Well, I'm trying to be the opposite. Anymore. I'm trying to be the opposite.
I want to hear Dick Cognito and Big Weirdo. Let's kick it to them right now.
All right, guys, let's look at a little game film from previous games. Look at number 71 out there, Big Weirdo giving up the sack. You suck! Read the book!
Hey, guys, take it easy. I'm doing the best I can.
Now look at Big Weirdos, no hustling ass out here. No wonder Lamar Miller sucks.
That's it, guys. I'm going home.
Go home! Go home, Big Weirdo. Just go ahead and go home, because nobody on our offense is going home whenever you're out there blocking for them.
I'm going to tell Mom and Dad.
Your real mom. No, weirdo. Tell Coach. I'll your mom too, Big Weirdo. Coach your mom.
Damn it. I'm a Stanford-educated offensive tackle.
Is that tears, Big Weirdo? We don't cry in football, Big Weirdo.
Wow. Thank you, Brian Hartline, for those tapes on Big Weirdo. I'm surprised they haven't found Big Weirdo hanging in a closet yet.
Now even Jay Glazer can get his hands on these tapes from Brian Hartline. Thank you for that, Brian Hartline, by the way.
Speaking of the Dolphins,
I apologize for going into that rant. I
wanted to hang myself that entire thing.
Yeah.
It was like ESPN. I couldn't turn it off.
I try to be the opposite of what they're saying, but yeah, you still don't want to listen to it.
Let's talk about the actual game that the Dolphins played. As the Dolphins and Tampa Bay Buccaneers squared off on Monday Night Football that nobody wanted to watch.
Ugh.
And the final score was 22-19 with Tampa Bay finally getting a win. The Detroit Lions that went winless can pop the, I don't know, you don't pop champagne when you're winless. I guess you pop like a...
You better get them all designated drivers.
Pop them like a Busch Light bottle. Celebrate the still only being winless team.
Yeah, Tampa Bay was bound to get a win at some point. Glennon's been playing solid football for this team. And Darrell Revis.
Displaced Diehards' favorite.
Darrell Revis is trying to smack me in the face because I kind of wrote him off, and he's actually starting to become a playmaker. He made a huge play to end this game.
The good thing for him, though, is his defensive coordinator is no longer trying to smack Darrell Revis in the face by making him play a zone whenever he's the best man-on-man coverage corner in the league.
Yeah, I mean, what you pull from this game is the Dolphins just there's games they should win.
What you pull from this game is both teams fucking suck.
Yeah, we tried to tell you that this is going to be a hard one to watch at the beginning. I mean, the Dolphins, I think they've got the guy in Tannehill, but, I mean, you're just going to have to wait and see.
I'm going to have to disagree with that after actually I worked last night, so I sat there literally forced to watch every snap of this game and break things down and try to find things to talk about. And Tannehill, as soon as he receives the ball, he's looking at the guy he's going to throw it to. He never looks off his wide receiver, never goes to a different option, never checks down to the running back. I think Lamar Miller would be great in the screen game, but he never looks to another option. As soon as the ball snaps, he knows where he wants to throw it, and that's where he's going to throw it.
I think a lot of that too, though. Man, I didn't see a lot of that at the beginning of the year that I'm seeing, that like you're pointing at now. A lot of that's probably getting the hell beat out of him because his offensive line is absolute garbage. And you take away two guys that were starting on the offensive line,
Big Weirdo and Dick Cognito.
That's right. You take away those two guys, and he's got to be fearing for his life back there. But, yeah, I mean, he looks great one week, and then, it is what it is. He's a young quarterback, and he makes some mistakes. But you have to wait and see. You spent that high pick on him. You got to at least give him 3 years, I would think.
Yeah, I don't know. The way the NFL is now these days, I guess it just depends on who falls to the Dolphins. If somebody's there, they might bring in some competition for him because I haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
They brought in Mike Wallace, and Mike Wallace hasn't been used well at all. And, I mean, you got to put that on the quarterback not being able to get the ball to him at some point. I mean, you can say it's on the offensive coordinator and play calling, but at some point, if Mike Wallace and Tannehill are as good as we think they should be hooking up on more passes than what they have this season.
I agree, definitely. It's just – the Dolphins, they're right there. They get a big win, and you think, well, they'll be able to get back in the mix because the AFC's kind of wide open as well. The whole entire league's wide open, and you got a team like the Dolphins who are right there facing a winless Tampa Bay team. I don't care if it is on the road. It's a game you need to win.
Yeah, I don't care who was bullying who the previous month or whatever and what you got to deal with all that. Whenever you go in with a winless team in Tampa Bay who everybody thinks they're just playing right now to get the number one pick, and you go in and allow them to beat you on Monday Night Football in front of the world after you're kind of feeling high and mighty on your horse there because you beat the Colts a few weeks back, and now you're losing to a winless team. I mean, Tampa Bay is bad. Let's keep it moving now. Move on to some games action. Bengals versus Ravens squared off in a huge battle. You think the Bengals are going to turn the corner, be dominant in that division, but the Ravens come in there and get the win, 2017. It looked like the Bengals woke up in the fourth quarter, like, holy shit, we're the Bengals. We should be winning this. This year is our year. And they hit that huge Hail Mary to send the game into overtime, but then they peter out once again. Andy Dalton took a huge sack in overtime that you can't take. It just set his team back in field position game, and the Ravens ended up getting the field goal basically because of the bad field position.
Yeah, I just want to smash my head through a plate glass window when I talk about the Bengals because if you're a Bengals fan, I feel for you at this point because they're right there on the cusp, and they just pull Bengals-like maneuvers like this. You got a 2-game lead. You're in a comfortable spot. You're in a game with a team that's just beat down, and, they should win this game, and they come out and they flat. They don't play with any fire. Andy Dalton just lets his team down again. I mean, it is what it is with the Bengals at this point. That division's wide open. It won't be over until it's mathematically over at this point.
Yours and Drunk Bernie's Cleveland Browns are starting to look more and more like the favorite in that division just because, like we said in the NFC, they've got that defense that can hold teams to 14 points.
If they can get any quarterback play in Cleveland, any quarterback play at all.
And a running back that can stay healthy.
I mean, they're running the ball okay with Obinyana and McGahee. It's just I can't attach any relevance to the Bengals until they prove me wrong. This is a game where I said, this is the kind of games they're going to have to win on the road. Pittsburgh and Baltimore, places they've struggled in the past, and they just blow it again.
It's a game that playoff teams win. Like we said, playoff teams and good teams go in there and get that done. I mean, you're a better team. You got to go and take a stranglehold on that division. Well, I mean, they've been waiting forever. That division's been dominated by the Steelers and the Ravens for as long as it's been created. And the Bengals have got an opportunity to come in and make themselves dominant.
They're going to get the Browns, let the Browns sneak in the mix. I mean, that's embarrassing.
Who can't buy a quarterback the start for them for the rest of the season. They actually had Whedon, and then they went to Hoyer. Hoyer got injured, went back to Whedon, now to Campbell. Campbell's still not playing. I mean, he's playing good. He's playing good for Jason Campbell, but he's still not playing efficient football.
Yeah, I mean the Ravens, they pulled themselves out of the cellar and they dusted themselves off. Even the Steelers at this point are in the mix. I mean, I don't know. It's just the Bengals are just a head scratcher every week.
Speaking of the Steelers, I think the best thing that could happen for the Bengals is for them to give up on A.J. Dalton and maybe trade for Ben Roethlisberger. I've heard the trade rumors are out there, even though Roethlisberger's denying him. Of course, the player's going to deny him. He's not going to say that he wants to get traded while he's still in the city.
I'd take Roethlisberger in a heartbeat. I mean, the guy, you know, he's a warrior in the pocket, and he, anyway, he's got rings on his finger. That's all I know. And Andy Dalton is just, he's back and forth, and he's got so many weapons. We say this every week. It is what it is. I mean, Marvin Lewis, it's starting to look at him as well. Marvin Lewis has got to do a better job of getting his team ready to play big games like this. That's you can knock Andy Dalton all day long, but it's a team effort, and they lose too many of these games not to blame a little bit on Marvin Lewis.
Up until a few weeks ago, I'd have probably said I'd take Roethlisberger in Philadelphia as my quarterback too. But moving on now to the Eagles versus Packers, it looks like we might have a quarterback in Philly as we win again 27-13 as the Caucasian Connection, Riley Cooper and Nick Foles get it done. Nick Foles, 10 touchdowns and no interceptions the last 2 games. And the one beef I've had with it is McCoy wasn't able to run, and McCoy ended up in this game with 155 yards. So
anytime you can throw the ball down the field like the Eagles are doing, McCoy's going to have room to run. That's just going to open him up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm out of issues to have with Foles the way he's playing right now. And Chip Kelly even said today, which is Tuesday, he said he's still not ready to name a starter. I mean, I'm the biggest Vic fan there is, but I mean, what's Foles got to do to win this job? I mean,
there's nothing. There's no way you could put Nick Foles on the bench.
That's what.
No way.
Yeah, I'm guessing Chip's is using that, maybe hoping that the team that he's playing next week will spend a little time working on defense for Vic, just in case he comes in. It must be some kind of strategic move. There's no way you bench Nick Foles. 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions the last 2 games. Riley Cooper has went from irrelevant to being a top 10 wide receiver in the league.
Yeah, the biggest stat of all isn't even the 10 touchdowns that you just mentioned. It's the 0 interceptions. That's a big problem this team had last year, and even through the beginning of the year was just turning the ball over too much. The defense wasn't great to begin with, transitioning from a 4-3 to a 3-4, and now. And when you turn the ball over like that, it even puts more pressure on them. And they've done a great job lately of not giving the other team the ball. And their defense has actually stepped up to play pretty solid ball.
Yeah, the Eagles' defense aren't one you want to turn the ball over to and make them win you games like we've been talking about with the Cardinals and Panthers and all that, and rely on them. But whenever our offense is putting points on the board and the opposing offense has to get out of their comfort zone a little bit, the Eagles, they bend, but they don't break. They'll give up a lot of they almost give up the into the red zone area, and then once they get to the red zone area, they start to tighten up a little bit. As long as our offense can score like that's a good way to play.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a winning way to play.
Yeah, they're playing the best ball in the NFC East. I know that transitions every 2 weeks. It looks like somebody else is playing the best. But if Nick Foles can keep playing on this level, I have to say that the Eagles are probably the favorite to win the division. The way the Cowboys are playing, they look like they're regressing severely. The Redskins were in prime position to look like they were ready to come back, and they take a bad loss to us at the Metrodome. It looked like they were ready to take that step like they took last year, and then they take a step back. And then the Giants, I can't buy into them. For the simple fact that they're beating teams barely that they're evenly matched with. So when they get up against the meat of their schedule, I have a hard time believing they're going to beat those teams. So if you look at it from the outside, you got to think the Eagles are the favorite at this point.
I can't pick the Giants because Eli Manning is legit living up to his nickname. We've given him a sling blade. He looks like he has no idea what's going on. Looks like he's had too many concussions out there or something. I mean, because he's the same guy still. I mean, he can't be that horrible. He's got Victor Cruz and Akeem Nicks up there. You've got to be able to muster more than what he has with the weapons around him. I mean, it's almost like Andy Dalton. I mean, we're talking about Andy Dalton, who's young,
running game,
who's young in this league. Eli Manning's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, playing worse than that. I mean,
if you're going to point to a reason, the whole
Eli Manning gets away with so much because he's got those 2 Super Bowl rings.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Andy Dalton with 2 Super Bowl rings, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to point to a reason why the Giants may be able to get back in it, is Brown is back, and he looked like the running back that the Giants have been lacking. Their offense has always relied on a running game, and they've missed it severely. So, but I can't hitch my horse to that wagon just yet. I mean, they're going to have to show me more than just beating the Raiders.
Yeah, Andre Brown's he typically gets hurt a lot.
Exactly.
He's always been injury prone, so I'm not going to hitch my wagon to that. And then they're going to be right back to the players of the mid-2000s that they like to go to with Brandon Jacobs and Peyton Hillis, and then you're looking like you're playing 2007 Madden. That's never good for your 2013 football team.
No, not at all.
Something that is good for my 2013 football team, my Philadelphia Eagles, is the one and only Riley Cooper, as he checks in to let everybody know about the Caucasian connection.
Wow.
Hello and welcome. This is RBGC, Riley by Guy Cooper, boy. Back on the Displaced Diehard podcast. Now I'm back just like the Caucasian connection with back whooping ass and taking back God names, boy. Did you see what we did to the Packers out there? We stomped them boys out like they done stole our cheese. Oh, Aaron Rodgers wasn't playing is what I'm hearing all them fans say. Aaron Rodgers don't play no defense, boy. Ain't nothing he could have done to slow down the Caucasian connection. Hell, Brett Favre, Bart Starr, and Aaron Rodgers altogether couldn't stop the Caucasian connection. Nick Napoleon Dynamite and RBGC, rallied by Guy Cooper, taking over the NFL, boy. Old Nick Foles got his jersey up in the Hall of Fame. Hootie, what you got up in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Nothing, 'cause you suck. Now the Eagles have flown in the first place tie with the Dallas Cowboys. Now I love me some country music, Ken Chesney. But I can't stand Dallas, man. That place gives the old Stars of Bars a bad name, boy. Led by Jason the Ginger Garrett. Speaking of that, when I was in that big old mess up in August about saying a racial slur, I was framed. I ain't used the N-word, I said ginger. I can't stand gingers. I will jump that fence and fight every ginger over there, is what I said. See, it was a big misunderstanding. The only N-word old by God here knows is Nick Napoleon. For Nick Napoleon foes. Now, if you want to talk racist, we'll move on to our opponent this week, the Washington Redskins. Now, that's a messed up name. That racial epitome makes me sicker than an old hound dog that drank out of a spittoon. We playing RG3, a.k.a. the catfish. Now, there's one thing old by God here knows is how to fish. So I've been teaching our defense how to noodle fish for a catfish. So hopefully old Connor Barwin will grab Catfish Griffin by his inner gullet, drown all the water out of his gills, then hang that sumbitch up over the fireplace after we're done with him. And the Eagles will continue to be in first place in the NFC East. Well, that's going to be all for this week. I'm going to check out, get back up in the deer stand, try to find me a white-tailed buck to shoot. Till next time, this is Riley by Guy Cooper, playing Skeeter Dickin.
Thank you, Riley Cooper, for the update on your Caucasian connection and your Philadelphia Eagles flying high. I'm going to keep it moving now to another team who's been flying high all season. The Denver Broncos took on Beans' San Diego Chargers, got the win 28-20. This game, the final score ended up being a lot closer than most of this game was, as the Chargers scored 2 late touchdowns to get kind of back in the game. 28-20, though, you got to take that from the Broncos, especially the way that Peyton Manning's limping around out there looking gimpy.
Yeah, they came out like a house of fire. The Broncos looked like they were going to run away with this game, and then Manning just looked more and more beat down as the game went on, and the Chargers kind of caught up and gained some ground. If Manning can't control the game throughout, this defense has not shown they're going to be good enough to win games when it gets cold outside. I don't know. You know, the Broncos look like, you know, they're way far ahead of the pack, and now it looks like maybe there's a crack in the door there. Maybe, you know, there's a chance for other teams to beat the Broncos.
The funny thing about that is the Broncos, they had a great defense whenever Tebow was there, and then they haven't really had that much of a personnel turnover. And I think the defense have just gotten lackluster, thinking their offense is going to put 30 points on the board and they can win 30-28. But I mean, if Manning can't be Manning out there, And the great stat about Manning that I heard is his first 36 touchdowns of the year, it's divided evenly 9 each to his top 4 wide receivers, Welker, Julius Thomas, Darius Thomas, and Eric Decker. So, I mean, he's spreading the ball around, making defenses not be able to key on one guy like they tend to do. And whenever you got a guy like Des Bryant, like you've seen in New Orleans do, where they just double-teamed him and took him completely out of the game, you can't do that with the Broncos. And that's purely on Peyton Manning. That's why that offense is running. And if Manning becomes that guy that's scared to get hit and is going down quicker than he should because he's not going to take a sack. He's going to sack himself.
Yeah,
that's going to take the flow right out of the offense.
His O-line, is not the greatest. It's banged up, and Manning looks like he's feeling the pain. He's an older guy. It is what it is. But the defense talk about the defense. Von Miller was a big reason why this defense was one of the better defenses in the league last year. Even with Manning at quarterback, they still had one of the better defenses. And Von just hasn't quite got his legs under him this season yet. I mean, the suspension looks like it may have set him back a little bit.
Missing that much time, especially to start off the season, wasn't like he got his legs under him playing a few games into the season, then got suspended like Dwayne Bowe might. After Dwayne Bowe and Jerome Simpson might here this next couple of weeks here after their run-ins with the law. But Von Miller, he got suspended right off the bat, so he never really got those legs. And it's hard to get in mid-season. It's hard to catch up with guys that's already been playing that long and expect him to come in there and be at that speed. And like you said, I don't think he's caught up yet, and I think it's hurt his team.
Champ Bailey as well. Champ Bailey would miss a lot of the season. He's an older guy, too.
Champ Bailey might be in the Ed Reed getting too old to be doing this.
I mean, he got abused in the playoffs last year.
Might be more name than value at this point.
I agree. And you lose that's me about losing Antoine. When you lose a leader like that, that's not playing up to par, just not playing at all, your defense is going to suffer a little bit. And those are two of the bigger players on this D, and they just haven't quite found their rhythm yet.
Moving to the Chargers side of the ball, I mean, you got to give them credit for hanging in there in the fourth quarter. But like we said, they were dominated the biggest part of this game. Did you see anything from the Chargers? The one thing that I've noticed was your boy Manti Te'o was actually out there making some tackles.
Te'o's a player. I mean, I've said that all along. I don't care what he runs. I watched him 4 years at Notre Dame, and the guy can make plays all over the field. If you can't run, I mean, I understand the college game is a lot slower than the NFL, but the fact of the matter is this guy, he made enough plays to show me that he's a middle linebacker in this league, and he's starting to, he was hurt at the beginning of the year as well, and he's starting to get his legs under him, and he's a force. The Chargers drafted well this year. Keenan Allen on the other side of the ball is a weapon as well.
I think the Broncos should thank the Chargers for taking Danny Woodhead out of the Patriots roster because if the Patriots still have Woodhead, I think they'd be the favorites in the AFC right now because Tom Brady just had nobody to work with in the beginning of the season.
Scratch your head at some personnel moves in New England this year, Woodhead and Welker being let go.
Yeah, it was the matchup of the two should still be Patriots as Welker took on Danny Woodhead. Somebody else that did recently move teams, Peyton Manning, world famous move from the Colts to the Broncos. He was getting abused by the Chargers like he'd been in the West for his whole career, and it was a rivalry game. It was like the Eagles Cowboys. Aikman back in the day, he said they had a bounty out on him almost, like they were trying to injure him.
Going for his knees.
They were going low on him on the tackling, and none was getting called though. So we had to bring in our very own ladies' man, the official NFL referee, Jerome Bogger, to ask him, ladies' man, Peyton was complaining about low hits, and none of them got called. You think the way the NFL protects quarterbacks, and especially somebody as important as Peyton Manning, you think those would be getting called?
Listen, man, there's only a few of us out there on the field, and each one of those teams, every time when they come in and there's a game going on, each one brings 18, count them, 18 cheerleaders over on the sideline. That's 36 hot asses over there on the sidelines, and I'm just a man, and I'm away from my wife or mistress or girlfriend, and so is every other referee out there. So when there's that much hot ass up and down both sidelines, I don't care which way you turn your head, sometimes there's something that's going to draw your eye. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
There you have it from the horse's mouth himself. I guess you just shut the hell up, Peyton.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't remember to throw the flag. I didn't see what happened. I don't know. I just cover my eyes and say, my bad, fellas. I hope somebody else gets it next time.
Speaking of covering your eyes, if you're a Cowboys fan, you had to be covering your eyes during this game as the Cowboys took on the Saints in New Orleans, where the Saints are very hard to beat. Saints win 49-17 as the Cowboys move to 5-5 in their own division, tying with my Philadelphia Eagles for number 1 in the division. Right now, we're going to bring in Displaced Diehards super fan of the Dallas Cowboys.
He told us not to bring him in. He
Chris
told me
Riley.
not to. He said
he was warning us that
he has some bad things to say. Can't be any worse than what I've said. So.
Yeah, it can't be any worse than Dirty Kermit, and he made the air. So we decided to bring him in, and I mean, if he wants to hate on the Cowboys, I'll listen to that all day.
Is it time for me to talk?
It's time.
I mean, I've been waiting 2.5 hours watching Kentucky lose, and now I got to talk about the Cowboys. It's so good to be here.
Absolutely.
Great to have you here. Glad you joined us.
You can hear it in his voice, the love for the Dallas Cowboys.
I mean, this week's been an absolute disaster being me. I've literally walked to the 9th floor of my the hospital and thought about running full speed at the window. I'm just sick of this crap.
Did you go to the 9th floor because that's Tony Romo's number?
Well, was
that symbolic?
It actually was, because I might as well have. He sure as hell didn't show up Sunday. Good Lord.
Yeah, you got to show up against this defense for sure.
The Saints' defense is what was the question coming into the season, and I mean, they just held an explosive Cowboys offense of 17 points. So, I mean, your boy Rob Ryan, who took a lot of heat as the Cowboys defensive coordinator last year, they were literally putting more pictures of him up than players during this game. I was getting sick of seeing Rob Ryan, even though he was celebrating the Cowboys' downfall.
And then you see him on the internet drinking with a freaking Cowboys fan. I just pictured that being me and him going, "Damn, big weirdo, what the hell happened there? Why'd y'all get rid of me?" I can just imagine him having a drink with me saying that. It's just, everything being about a Cowboys fan is just embarrassing.
Yeah, we have our very own big weirdo on the show. That reminded me, we were speaking of big weirdo last week before Riley got here to the podcast, and he walks in, he's like, "Big weirdo, you guys talking about me?" So he pretty much gave himself his own nickname. So Raj, go ahead and put Big Weirdo up there on his screen graphic.
I will sue for that.
Junior, Big Weirdo.
I will sue for that.
He's going to call his lawyers and leave the podcast now.
The Cowboys, man, they're right there. I mean, just make a move. You're right there in the division mix. I don't care how badly you've played. Just pull it together, Jason Garrett. I mean, I can't believe I put stock in this team at the beginning of the year. This is an 8-8 ball team with a horrible coaching staff.
The thing I don't understand is they double-teamed Des Bryant, and Jason Witten did nothing. That seems like it would have opened the things up for Witten. What were they doing on offense if Witten or Des Bryant aren't getting anything? And they're not running the ball.
One thing that a lot of people, unless you watch the Cowboys, you'll know, but Brian Waters was, as soon as they plugged him in, they got his ass off of the couch, brought him in. Romo was not getting breathed on, and ever since he's tore his ACL, Bernadou, or how the hell you say his last name, he can't freaking block anybody, and Romo's spending most of his time running for his life.
Yeah, that can definitely disrupt the plays. But I mean, from what I saw from when I watched the Cowboys,
it's play calling too. Obviously, poor coaching,
horrible, and I mean, just finding a way to find the team's weakness and exploit that is a huge problem in Dallas. I can tell you that from just watching them play the Vikings game. They had no idea how to attack us. It just seems like to me that the coaching staff is not putting together good game plans. So that's just what I'm drawing from it.
I mean, that's been the whole story behind Jason Garrett, his whole tenure there. I mean, Riley's been screaming that the ginger needs to go for basically since they put him on the roster.
No doubt. Now more than ever. I mean, this offense is loaded with weapons. Des Bryant, on the other side of the ball, you've got a breakout rookie in Terrence Williams, and you have one of the best tight ends in the game. And DeMarco Murray has had better years than a lot of people expect. They thought maybe he was just a flash in the pan. He's shown he can be the guy to carry the load when he's healthy, and they're just not using him. I mean, it's a head scratcher.
He's never healthy though. He's another version of Darren McFadden. He is always hurt. Whether it's a hamstring or whether it's just
he was healthy when you played us, and he got 9 carries. So I can't put all the stock in.
He's coming off an injury though. That was his first game back from being out for 3 games.
Yeah, but did they run anybody else in the game?
No,
absolutely not. 9 rushes in the game.
They won that game though, so believe me, they'll try to dictate that where you act like you watched a different game than what they just played.
Yeah, well, you should have won the game by more. It shouldn't have even been that close.
The Cowboys offense, generally, I mean, as erratic as Tony Romo was known to be in the fourth quarters from time to time, it's still that hasn't been their problem this year. It's the defense, and I mean, it's who is it to blame? Who keeps bringing in these defensive coordinators? Is it Jerry or is the Ginger making the calls on Monty Kiffin and Rob Ryan? Because they're striking out on these defensive coordinators that they're calling in. They're spending a lot of money on free agents like who they bring in
Brandon Carr.
Yeah, but can you put it
up to draft
Claiborne and can't get anything out of them.
Can you put on the defensive coordinators though? I mean, Rob Ryan, he's getting it done in New Orleans. I mean, their cast of characters down there was an absolute joke. He walks in there and he turns the entire defense around. Monty Kiffin got it done for years in Tampa Bay. Now, granted, I might be on your side of the fence in the fact that the Tampa 2 defense doesn't look like it works anymore.
I heard this week they should rename that the Dallas 7 because anytime you line up in that defense, you're going to get 7 off of it.
Yeah, I mean,
that defense looks as old as Monty Kiffin does, and that's old.
Yeah, it's not working anymore. In the personnel, y'all are banged up. Hatcher out now. Lee's out. Big blow.
Who's that kind of defense that can't tackle anybody?
Jim Heath.
Heath.
Jay Heath. Heath.
It's so bad that
I tweeted him that I hope he never steps foot on a football field again.
So bad that Riley is begging for Ed Reed to come there. 87-year-old Ed Reed, the only NFL player older than Brendan Whedon.
Yeah, the guy that just got released by the Texans who are having a horrible time.
Who was a dime defensive back.
I mean, I called him out last week after the Vikings game on that pathetic attempt to tackle Adrian Peterson. And then this week, there was 3 or 4 plays where, I mean, it's just laughable. I've never seen somebody play defense this bad.
What tells the story in this game, too, is late. I actually didn't get to watch a whole lot of it. I had to work that night, so I was in the middle of a nap. But when I woke up, the game was well out of hand. And the Cowboys, they knew the Saints were trying to run the ball against them, and they were just lining up and running for 7 and 8 yards right up the middle.
Mark Ingram was.
Yeah, we had a lot
of
even
success.
Worse. They're having a hard time up, especially with Lee out. It's going to be taking candy from a baby.
What's the word on Lee? I haven't heard any kind of injury update.
Yeah, it's looking like 4 to 6 weeks, and
that's very good.
That's bad for the Cowboys.
That's good.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't care if Lee's 100%, Ware's 100%. The secondary is just pathetic.
Speaking of which, on this run, but I got to go back to this because we talk about it all the time. Sean Payton and Drew Brees and their obsession with these records. Did you see this? Anybody else see this? Where Drew Brees comes to the sidelines and Sean Payton says, "Hey, we're only 1 first down away from the record for the most first downs in a game."
You know they're not gonna miss their opportunity at that.
And what do? They go for it and they can't get it. They get the 3rd down and they haven't got the first down. So what do? When they're up like 49-17 or whatever they were up, it was ridiculous. Here they go. They go for it on 4th down to get the record. And when they got it, if you go back and watch, they celebrate like they just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
it just makes me sick to my stomach.
Sean Payton's that dick on Madden that you're playing online that goes for it on 4th down when he's up 21 in the 4th quarter.
Drew Brees and his smirky ass grin on there on the post game. I'm not pulling for the Cowboys in any way, shape, or form here, but that's just to me.
Those are your Cowboys. Don't jump off that bandwagon now.
Hey, it is what it is. I said they'd win the division. They've fallen well short of the same Cowboys they were before. I mean, it's not panned out at all.
Speaking of a team that wish they were the same as before, we're going to move it on now to the Falcons, as they look like a Super Bowl contender coming into the season, and they can't buy a win coming in. I mean, the Seahawks came in to the Georgia Dome, which used to be Matty Ice's just hometown, home field advantage. It was almost like the Seahawks' home field advantage. But now people are just coming in there beating them at will.
Matt Ryan is not who we thought he was. Matt Ryan is not who we thought he was. The fact of the matter is that we talk about these quarterbacks that make their their wide receivers in any position, and Matt Ryan has lost his weapons, and the team is non-existent. I mean, their offensive line's banged up. They lost their leaders on defense, and the whole team just folded up shop. They've quit on the coaching staff, and they're losing games. They're not even competitive. I thought the Vikings were having a bad season. The Falcons are worse on the field than the Minnesota Vikings are on the field this season.
Well, I'm not going to blame it all on Matt Ryan's talent level. Not. I think you can blame a lot on his contract, and like you're seeing everywhere, these teams that give quarterbacks a huge contract, the team around them just fall apart. I mean, in the NFL, and especially the Chicago Bears situation sticking out to me, like, would you rather pay Jay Cutler $100 million and score 10 more points a game than you would if you're paying McCown the league minimum, and then build the rest of the team around them? And I think that's what's happened to the Falcons. They spent all their money on the wide receivers and the quarterbacks, and the rest of the team just went to hell.
Well, and the Falcons have had decimating injuries. I mean, Witherspoon being out, Coy Bierman, who is a perennial playmaker on that team.
But you can pretty much say every NFL team is devastated by injuries.
That's exactly right. They don't have any depth. Obviously, their depth isn't NFL quality, and
all their depth is in Matt Ryan's wallet because he got all the money.
If you want to, but I mean, I don't know. I can't really say that you shouldn't pay Matt Ryan. I mean, let's go back to the days of Joey Harrington there or Chandler. You know, this team has been a team that's never had a quarterback besides Michael Vick, and they finally thought they had something. I mean, the guy was tearing it up. I mean, he was putting his team right there. I mean, except for when you get to the playoffs, he wasn't quite getting them over the hump. But I mean, he's putting up record seasons for the Falcons, and they paid him, and now. It is what it is.
I think what it comes down to is there's very few quarterbacks that should be paid like that, and there's twice as many getting paid like that. There's only a handful of guys. I think Breeze, Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Peyton Manning are the only guys that should be making that kind of money. And
but do you let Matt Ryan walk away?
Well,
do you let Joe Flacco walk away at the end of the Super Bowl season?
That's what I mean. I think
that's the question.
I think the GMs and owners have shot themselves in the foot because they started offering all this other money to guys who are lower. Because Peyton Manning, Brady, Rodgers, etc. are making that kind of money, they're like, well, this guy's the next best.
Right,
I might as well just pay him the rest to get him to stay with my team. I don't think that's the way to go in the NFL anymore.
But it's just the culture. I mean, I'll jump on that wagon with the Ravens. They should have extended Joe Flacco before they shot themselves in the foot and let him go win a Super Bowl, and then had to overpay him because they can't just let Joe Flacco walk away. Because I guarantee you there would have been a franchise out there that would have paid him, and the Ravens would have been right back to square one. The culture just says.
But also, they had to put a rookie salary cap in because owners were paying so much to these rookies. So you almost got to save them from themselves at some point. I'm not saying that in the current market for quarterbacks that Matt Ryan was a huge mistake. I'm just saying that I think some of these quarterbacks are getting way too much money.
Absolutely,
just like the Snake has been saying for weeks on the show.
That's the culture. I mean, it's a bad spot to get in. I mean, you look at it's starting to turn into baseball in the sense that these salaries are so overblown. Guys like Flacco and Romo, all these guys are getting paid. Peyton, like you said, Peyton Manning money, and it's not working out in the sense. And it's not going to. It's going to be rough for these teams because they're going to face the questions. When guys like RG3 or Kaepernick and guys like that come up for their contract. Are you going to drop $100 million on these guys? Or are you going to let them walk?
Those are the quarterbacks that are interested in these quarterbacks that are getting the huge contracts, like the RG3s and the Andrew Luck. I think Andrew Luck is the only one that I've seen so far that it looks like a franchise quarterback to me. That I think there's 4 elite franchise quarterbacks, and I think there's about 10 that are getting paid like it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we can all agree on that. The league itself is getting itself into a jam in the sense that these quarterbacks, like you said, you pay them a lot of money and they don't produce. Then you've backed yourself into a corner because you don't have any money to pay anybody else. I mean, even in Aaron Rodgers' situation, I mean, where you got guys like him and Clay Matthews and the big money guys, B.J. Raji. I mean, these guys. How are you going to pay these guys?
How are you going to pay Eddie Lacy when his contract comes up?
Right. I mean, it is what it is, and that's. But to be honest with you, I'm glad it is that way because it keeps the NFL competitive. I mean, if you had a huge salary cap number where you could pay a guy like Aaron Rodgers and afford to pay other people as well, obviously the Packers are going to be the cream of the crop every year, and they still are anyways. But if you don't do it that way, then you're going to be looking at a few teams that just like it was in the '80s when you had 49ers and Cowboys just rolling roughshod over everybody.
The cream of the crop in the NFC this year has been the Seahawks, who beat the Falcons 33-10 in this game. Did you see anything from the Seahawks that you noticed that? As they're playing your Vikings the next week, so I figured you're probably scouting them.
Well, I mean, this game it wasn't close, but the thing you got to look at with the Seahawks is the good teams find ways to win games even when they don't play very good, and they've done that all year. They've won a lot of close games, or they really shouldn't have won, and they've found a way to weather the storm. Now they get Percy Harvin back this week. He definitely got to watch for that. He definitely is going to look to whip our ass.
Think he circled that date on his calendar whenever the NFL schedule came out?
He definitely did, but I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, Percy is a beast. I loved Percy on the field. I loved watching him play, but I mean, I don't know that I could pay him that much and give up that many picks for him. I guess we'll see what happens on Sunday if he tries to make me regret saying that or not.
There was a date I marked on my calendar, though. It was the Count's return to the show. We haven't heard from him in a while. We was getting worried about him. So right now, I know the Falcons are doing bad, but he checked in this week.
I don't know about it.
Let's see what the Count has to say.
Wow.
Sad Count.
It's me, the Count. Back after a long layoff because my Falcons are horrible. I can't bear to comment. My son and my grandson's failures are obvious. They have brought shame onto our entire family. The Count has tried walking in the sun several times, but I'm a very powerful vampire. My son cannot kill me. God will not have mercy on me. But I still have to sit in front of the television on Sundays and fly down to the coffin to support my Falcons. Because I am what this show says I am. I'm a die-hard fan. It's killing me. I've been alive for over 700 years and I've never felt this kind of pain. This shit. I'm gonna sleep until next season. Hopefully, my son and my grandson are still in charge. Goodbye. Thank you for that, Count. Hopefully, we don't lose a correspondent. I know we've lost him for the year, but hopefully Mike Smith doesn't get fired and we can bring him back next year.
Yeah, he was predicting Super Bowls to start off the season.
Poor guy.
And now he's trying to kill himself.
Sure.
Nobody could
He's trying, but
nobody could predict the Falcons season,
That's
how it's
terrible.
going. But we're going to go ahead and try to predict Week 11. Let's
That's
kick
right.
it off. Get
Let's
to the game.
Get it rolling. Let's go down to LP Field, home of Ill Bill's Tennessee Titans. They're going to play host to a very disappointed Jim Irsay and the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to roll with Andrew Luck to get back on track this week. Tennessee suffered a bad loss to Jake Locker last week, so I'm going to go ahead and roll with the Colts.
As bad as it pains me to pick Jim Irsay's team, give me the Colts. Sorry, Bill.
All right, let's go out to the 12th man, Seattle Seahawks. They're bringing back Percy Harvin this week. He's got a vendetta to serve against his former team, my team, the Minnesota Vikings. I don't like our chances this week. It's a very tough place to play. We haven't played good football all year, and Percy's back. It's all stacked against us. I'm going Seattle Seahawks maybe to embarrass us.
Yeah, Vikings were catching DUIs this week in a celebration of a win, and I can imagine there might be 3 or 4 of them to catch a DUI this week for watching Percy Harvin come in and stomp them out. Give me the Seahawks.
All right, let's go down to Soldier Field, home of Jay Cutler, who I don't know if he's going to play this week or not. They're playing host to the Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens, who somewhat got it back on track this week. I'm going to put my eggs in the Luke McCown or Josh McCown, whatever his name is, basket, whichever McCown it is. I'm going with the Chicago Bears over the Baltimore Ravens.
I picked the Ravens last week for the upset, and I'm going to predict the Ravens to keep it moving. I think McCown, I think the world's going to crumble around him. I think he's starting to hear the fans say that he's better than Cutler, and I think he's going to overlook the Ravens defense, give up a couple interceptions. Give me the Bears.
All right, let's go to
Give me the Ravens.
the Ravens. That's right. Let's go down to Cincinnati, Paul Brown Stadium, where they're going to play host to the Cleveland Browns in an epic battle. The team that they're battling for the division lead. This will definitely sway the course of the AFC North. Surely to God, Andy Dalton can stand up and be a man and not let Cleveland come into his house and take control. I'm going with the Bengals. Ugh.
Oh, you've fallen off your Browns bandwagon there, have you?
It's at Cincinnati, and they're bound to take pride. I mean, come on.
Well, I'm going to jump on the Browns bandwagon and pick the Browns to get the win here. I think
A huge win.
I think Hayden's going to take A.J. Green out of the game, and Andy Dalton sucks bad enough with A.J. Green in the game, so give me the Browns.
How about Philadelphia Eagles this week? That's what I want to know.
We're in first place. How about that?
But the bad news, the good news. The bad news is they're playing at home, where they haven't won a game since the 1982.
Since Andy Reid was a coach almost.
It's been insane. They're playing host to the Catfish and the Washington Redskins, who should have won last week. They lost a big win. I've got to have to roll with Nick Foles to change the culture and get a win there for the Philly fans.
Yeah, there's no way I'm picking Bob Griffin over my Eagles. Give me Napoleon Dynamite and Riley Cooper, Caucasian Connection, rolling on.
How about the Pittsburgh Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger? He wants out of Pittsburgh. They're playing host to Detroit.
That girl wanted out of the bathroom and he raped too. That didn't happen.
That didn't happen for him. Maybe he's going to go 0 for 2 on his hopes. But let's go with Detroit. The Detroit Lions are coming to town. The new leaders of the NFC North. They're going to roll in and take one from Pittsburgh. I'm about to go with the Detroit Lions to keep themselves in first place.
Yeah, the quarterback in Pittsburgh wants out of town. There's drama there. I don't like that. It's too much going in being a quarterback in the NFL to have any kind of drama around your head. Give me the Lions.
This game, traditionally on paper, just says the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win. If Detroit lives up to the hype similar to the Cincinnati Bengals, we'll see what happens. So let's go on
Even
down.
better chance than we both picked them.
That's right. Let's go on down to Tampa Bay, home of Mike Glennon. And they're going to be playing host to the Counts, Atlanta Falcons. Go ahead and pencil me in for the Falcons just for the count this week.
Give me Tampa Bay.
All right, let's go down to Jacksonville, fresh off their first win. They're still drinking champagne on Tuesday after that big win over the Tennessee Titans.
We know Justin Blackman's still smoking weed.
Hell yeah, he is. All right, they're going to be playing host to your Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals are right in the mix.
Honey Badger.
I'm going to have to go with them to try to stay in the mix and go 6-4 on the season. That would be fairly impressive.
Yeah, the Jaguars ain't going on no winning streak. Give me Honey Badger.
Let's go down to the Reliance Stadium, home of the very disappointing 2-7 Houston Texans. They're going to be playing host to a team that's always disappointing, the Oakland Raiders. I've got to go with Case Keenum in there to get a win. You're relying on Andre Johnson, the best player on the field.
Give me the Houston Texans to get the win in the home of unexpected strokes.
That's right. Let's go down to Miami, South Beach. We're going to be playing host to the San Diego Superchargers. They're coming from West Coast to the very south border of the East Coast. Let's go with the San Diego Superchargers for you, Beans.
Yeah, just based on
Beans alone.
Just
San Diego.
Just based on the fact that I'm sick of hearing about everything's Dolphins related, and I'm ready for them just to be abolished from the league after hearing about big weirdo situation for the last 2 weeks.
That's
Give me
right.
the Chargers.
All right, I'm not even going to call it the Katrina Dome this week. They've earned it. They've earned it being called the Superdome. The New Orleans Saints, and we'll see what kind of records they can set this week as they're playing host to Jim Harbaugh and the San Francisco 49ers. I'm sure there's some sort of record Sean Payton can pull out of his ass to go for this week. I'm going with the Saints to set every record that Sean Payton can find.
Give me the Saints to win in the Katrina Dome.
All right, let's go up to New York. New York Giants, home of the Super Bowl, and I don't think the Giants are going to have to worry about hosting it this year.
Home of Sling Blade quarterback Eli Manning.
They're playing host to my team, the Green Bay Packers, and Scott Tolzien. Wait a minute, Lightning.
Hear the Tolzien.
What about Lightning Elbow?
Lightning arm Matt Flynn. He's got a dead lightning arm right now from what I've heard, so the Tolzien is going to start.
The Tolzien is going to start, but the Lightning arm may finish. I'm going with the New York Giants to get the win big in this one.
The Tolzien's going to start. The Packers are going to win. Give me the Packers.
Uh-oh. Let's go to Denver in the epic battle in the AFC West. The team that hasn't played anybody, Kansas City. They've been lucky in facing backup quarterbacks and horrible teams all season. And just so happens Peyton Manning's hurt. Surprise, surprise. But you know what? I'm going with Denver anyway. Peyton Manning on a crutch to take the win here and beat Kansas City.
Kansas City Chiefs' strength of schedule wouldn't get them in a BCS bowl at this point. No. So give me the Broncos. I'm not buying into fat ass.
Definitely very low RPI in Kansas City. How about the Carolina Panthers? A team that I predicted would be 9-7. They're looking like they might even be better than that. Their defense is awesome. And they're playing host to Tom Brady and a guy who's held it together with no offensive weapons all season. This is a tough game to predict, but I'm going to have to roll with Tom Brady. I can't bet against him at this point.
Yeah, with the weapons back now, I'm going with the Patriots and Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
Bring Carolina back to earth a little bit. Finally, we got a game here. Buffalo, AFC East. Buffalo Bills done fairly well and hanging in there all season versus adversity. They're hosting Geno Smith and the every other game quarterback. I'm going to have to roll with Buffalo at home this week.
Just in honor of the departed Dirty Kermit, give me the fucking Jet.
All right, now they're telling us we're running short on time, so we're going to do lightning round. Fantasy starts and sits. I'll start it off, starting Percy Harvin this week to kick my Vikings ass.
I'm going with RG3 to kick my Eagles ass.
How about Riley Cooper, the Caucasian connection that's been very successful the last few weeks? I'm starting him.
Give me Case Keenum versus Oakland because they suck. Doug Baldwin versus Minnesota because the Vikings' pass defense kind of sucks.
There it is. Now let's go with the sits. Lightning round. I'm sitting Tom Brady, believe it or not, versus the Carolina defense. If you got another quarterback to play him.
I'm sitting A.J. Green versus Cleveland, the Hayden effect.
I tried to trade him this week, but it's to no avail, so I'm sitting Maurice Jones-Drew because no one wants to take him.
I told you to cut him, and I actually traded him this week. C.J. Spiller or Fred Jackson. I'm benching both of them because I'm sick of trying to figure out which one's going to put up the most points out of them.
Speaking of running backs, let's talk about Carolina's running backs. Don't start any of them. Even Tolbert at this point. There's just all three of them. They all taking each other's carries, and Stewart's starting to step in more, so I'm benching all of them.
My final start's going to be Jordan Cameron versus Cincinnati because since Jason Campbell's came into the game, Jordan Cameron has
disappeared.
Very little fantasy points.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. Go ahead and tell us where you can see the show.
You can always download the podcast at DisplacedDiehards.com. You can follow us at Twitter at Diehards Podcast. You can like us on Facebook /DisplacedDiehards. You can listen to the show also on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, and you can watch the show always Saturday 10 p.m. Time Warner Channel 72. Yippee-ki-yay!
Big time Skeeter Dickin.
Displaced Diehards.
Displaced Diehards.
I am a Displaced Diehard.
I am a Displaced Diehard.
We are Displaced Diehards.